Hello! A secret agency organizes a brutal social experiment in which people are presented with a dilemma. Either get more food or share your last bite with people you don't even know, but who might starve to death because of your greed. Goring, who sees the best in people and believes that they can all come to an agreement, also takes part in the experiment. But his dreams are quickly shattered by the harsh reality that he himself will have to do terrible things to survive. Will he be able to control the darkest parts of his personality and get out of the pit? In the lavishly decorated kitchen, the chef carefully oversees the cooking process. He seems to be in charge of an entire factory and walks among many of the workers who diligently prepare the most exquisite dishes from the finest ingredients. A man named Goring wakes up in a strange concrete room. His neighbor, an elderly stranger, tells him that they're on level 48 and will spend the next month here.
Who are the ones above?
They are the people who reside above us.
This is the pit, a special structure in which the people on the lower levels are forced to eat what their neighbors from the upper levels leave them. For this, a platform rides through a rectangular hole every day that lowers the food from the first to the last floor, stopping briefly at each level so that the inhabitants have time to eat. The man acts unfriendly and does not extend his hand to Goring.
Back to your side of the room, Goring.
But the old man nevertheless introduces himself. Trimagasi is glad to be on this level because they will get enough food. The hole stretches deep down, and hunger awaits those who live there. Trimagasi's been here for many months and knows what he's talking about. Goring tries to negotiate with the residents of the other floors, but it is obvious to the old man that it is not appropriate to talk to the lower one, and those on the upper floors will not respond. Such are the unwritten laws of the pit. Trimagasi gets tired of talking and takes a pose to start eating. The platform approaches. The old man pounces on the food like an animal.
It's what they didn't want.
Well, obviously.
Goring looks with disgust at the table, piled with scraps of overturned dishes, and does not touch the food. He sees the condescending gaze of the neighbors above. Trimagasi is surprised that there is some alcohol left. Apparently, there are teetotalers living above them. He invites the guy to eat something, and Goring takes an apple from the table. Trimagasi finishes the wine from the bottle, tosses it after the platform, and spits into the hole.
Why'd you do that?
It's for them to eat, and the ones below.
What if the ones above did the same?
Trimagasi has no doubt that the bastards on the floors above did the same thing as he did, so it's only fair. Suddenly, the temperature rises sharply in the cell. It will continue to rise until Goring throws the apple, because eating is only allowed as long as the platform stays on your level. The man throws the fruit down and is left without food. Retrospective. Goring is in a business meeting in a skyscraper. He signs a contract under which he will go to the pit voluntarily. Goring can only take one thing there, and he chooses the book Don Quixote. Cigarettes are forbidden here, so this way he wanted to limit himself in order to quit smoking. Besides, for 6 months in the pit, he would receive a certificate of some kind. Trimagasi is surprised. He will be here for a year and gets nothing in return. Deep in the night, Goring hears a strange sound and looks down the hole, barely able to dodge the platform rushing upward. It took it many hours to reach the lower floors. The next day, the newcomer does not eat again, and Trimagasi, per his tradition, gives the lower floors a spit. Goring wants to know how the old man got into the pit. Trimagasi tells how one day he was watching TV and saw the knife Samurai Plus, which was advertised as the sharpest knife in the world, which would solve all problems not only in the kitchen, but also in the lives of the viewers. After buying it, he saw another commercial where the same knife was advertised as one that would never get dull. Realizing that he had bought into a lie, he threw the TV out the window in a rage.
And it fell on a fucking illegal immigrant that was passing by. Now you tell me, am I responsible?
He was given a choice of punishment, a psychiatric ward, or the pit. The man chose the latter and took the very same knife with him. Last month, he was on level 132, where the platform arrives already completely empty, although there are also levels below it. Upon learning this, Goring again tries to negotiate with the inhabitants of the neighboring levels to be more saving with the food, to which he receives only curses, and Trimagasi unzips his fly and gifts the lower ones with other fluids so they know their place. The starving Goring does begin to cautiously eat scraps from the table to the chugging of the old man, who each time tries to cram more into himself. As the platform departs, a human body flies through the shaft and stains Goring with splattered blood. Trimagasi explains to his shocked neighbor how he managed to live on the 8th tier for a month. At the top, you're always full, and the appearance of the platform causes no joy. It makes some people lose their lust for life altogether from boredom and meaninglessness. Goring, who still believes in justice and thinks too much about life, is precisely at risk. After all, every month he and his roommate will move to a random floor, and then the newcomer, who has long been suspicious of Trimagasi, rightfully questions the fate of his predecessor.
It doesn't matter. As long as you have a self-sharpening knife. Then your companion disappeared after you were in a level where there's hardly any food, and you don't seem to have been fasting for a month.
The old man tries to evade the accusations, when suddenly a platform appears on which a girl, Miharu, is sitting. The old man knows her because she goes down every month to find her son. Goring is again shocked that children are also placed in the pit, and tries to help the injured girl. She only remains silent and drives on. Trimagasi also adds that Miharu kills her neighbors so that next month there is a chance to be reunited with her son. It is quite possible that the people who fall from above are her doing, but he himself did not kill his neighbor. Together, they ate the remains of those who fell on their platform from above, and the next month his cellmate was simply released. The platform goes down, and the neighbors below grab Mihara and drag her to their floor, but the girl is not so simple. After quickly leaving 2 dead bodies behind her, she climbs back onto the platform. Trimagasi asks the guy to read him Don Quixote. Goring agrees to take his mind off the horrors he had seen. The cellmates spend the next days and weeks eating and talking together. One night, Trimagasi asks if Goring believes in God. He asks him to pray for them, as he feels they are releasing sleeping gas. The next morning, they will wake up on another level.
But honestly, I don't think you'll survive for long. Who cares? We can't go back.
Goring wakes up and finds himself firmly tied to the bed. The old man reports that they are on level 171. One wouldn't even dream of getting scraps here. And so, immobilizing a younger and stronger neighbor is merely a necessity. They'll starve for a week, and then Trimagasi will begin to cut bits and pieces from Goring. He generously promises to even share them with his captive. The atmosphere is complemented by the cries of despair of those who have seen how low they have descended. To ease his conscience, the old man begins to address his neighbor not as a human, but as a snail, which is purged and marinated for some time before going to the table as a gourmet meal. A week later, it's time for the first meal. Goring tries to appeal to the humanity of his neighbor by saying that he will not hold those who created the pit responsible for his death, but Trimagasi and only him. The old man is not moved by this, and he stabs Goring in the leg as a platform with Miharu suddenly arrives. The girl wounds the old man and frees the guy, who unlike many, has been kind to her. Enraged, Goring crawls to Trimagasi and kills him with the Samurai Plus. Later, he wakes up and sees the old man's flesh being eaten by Miharu. She brings the pieces to the wounded Goring and gives him water, then heads below. While in the kitchen, the chef is furious at the cooks for a hair that fell into the dessert. Goring eats decomposing flesh and sees Trimagasi in a hallucination. The old man says that Goring has committed murder and is eating human flesh. Now, he's no different from the ruthless neighbor he condemned.
You forced me to.
No. I was helpless, but you showed no sympathy.
The month ends, and Goring comes to his senses on the 33rd floor. His new roommate, Imogiri, had taken her doggy with him. The woman was an employee of the pit administration who took Goring's application, and she remembers his name. At the interview, she asked him about his favorite food, and Goring chose snails. With each new person, the kitchen menu is updated with their preferences. Imogiri came here willingly and chose Goring as her roommate, since he was the only one who decided to take a book with him. The woman talks about the structure of the pit, which the administration calls Vertical Self-Management Center. There are 200 floors altogether, and if people distributed food intelligently, there would be enough for everyone. This experiment is meant to provoke spontaneous sense of solidarity, but Goring is already convinced that this is hopeless. Imogiri also claims that only those over the age of 16 are sent to the pit. She divides her food into portions and gives half to the dog, and tries to convince the people below to form equal-sized portions on plates for themselves and the people on lower levels. With ideas like these, the cellmates below tell her to screw herself until Goring threatens to defecate on the food if they don't listen. One day, Miharu comes down on the platform again. This time, she cannot get up on her own, and Goring and his neighbor put her on the bed to help her recover from her wounds. At night, hungry Miharu rises from the bed and eats Imogiri's dog. Goring tries to justify the mother committing atrocities for the sake of her child, but Imogiri has interviewed her as well. The girl is childless and entered the pit with a ukulele. She is an actress who wanted worldwide fame.
She came on her own.
Miharu is just crazy and looking for an imaginary child. Imogiri has no reason to lie. The woman is terminally ill with cancer, and she doesn't have long to live. She went to the pit to try and make a difference, but with the death of her pet, she too seems to have lost all hope and become depressed. At the next meal, on the last day of the month, Goring discovers the snails he ordered on the table. In the morning, he wakes up on the 202nd floor. Imogiri, who claimed that only 200 floors exist, has already committed suicide. The voices of the dead neighbors haunt Goring, urging him to eat the woman's body. The man's psyche is on edge, but he does what he needs to do in order to survive. And a month later, he meets a new neighbor on the 6th floor. Baharat has brought rope and wants to use it to climb to the top. The man believes in God and claims that it was he who told him to climb higher. He manages to convince the neighbors upstairs to secure the rope so he can climb up to them, but in the end, Bahamut is merely mocked, and he himself nearly falls down the shaft into which his rope flies. Go-Ring sees that his neighbor, like him, cares about high ideals, not just survival, and persuades him to ride down the platform and guard the food so that there's something left for the people on the lower floors. Go-Ring estimates that the tower has about 250 floors.
Down to suicide.
If we get food to the last level, we break the mechanics.
And if they can't manage to save the food, they'll stay on the platform and ride it to the top. The companions arm themselves with metal beams from the bed frame. They fiercely and quite successfully defend the food, descending lower and lower, until they encounter a man who knows Bahamut. It is his teacher, who notices that they are stepping on precious food and should articulate their goals more clearly to the inhabitants of the pit before threatening them with weapons. He also suggests sending a message to the administration that would unequivocally indicate that something has changed in the structure of the pit and that people have become more humane. Such a symbol could be some delicacy, which will pass all the levels on the platform and go back up without being eaten. The men chose a panna cotta and try to explain their idea to the people. Yet, they don't want to listen, and the partners have to fight back and share the food, of which there is less and less. As they descend lower, they encounter floors with just corpses on them. Apparently, this is where Miharu started her journey. It turns out that the platform doesn't stop at the floors with the dead, which means that the pit is even deeper than Go-Ring thought. Soon the heroes hear screams and sounds of fighting and discover Miharu battling two tough men who have also brought weapons with them. One of them kills Miharu, and the other wounds Bahamut with the samurai sword. Go-Ring tries to reach the girl and loses the fight, finding himself one step away from death, but his friend saves him and manages to drag him back to the platform. The platform stops, and under the bed, Go-Ring notices the child that only Miharu believed existed. As the men leave from the platform, it immediately descends even lower into the darkness. Bahamut continues to guard the panna cotta, though Go-Ring convinces him to throw it away. After all, food cannot be left on the floor. But to their surprise, there is no punishment for the leftover food. The girl gets out from under the bed, and Go-Ring offers to give her a piece of panna cotta. The hungry child ends up eating it all, and the bleeding men are left both without either their message nor the food. Go-Ring falls asleep and gets the idea to send to the top the girl, who has managed to survive on the very last level and is clearly not expected to be seen by the pit's workers. The next day, Bahamut dies of his wounds, and Go-Ring boards the platform with the girl and descends into the darkness. A hallucination of Trimagasi appears. The old man informs him that the hero's journey has come to an end.
I have to get the girl up.
But you are not the message.
Go-Ring has tainted himself, and his presence will interfere with the message. He steps off the platform, leaving only the girl on it, and withdraws into the darkness with Trimagasi, who has obviously become part of himself.
Don't call me Snail again.
Don't use my word again.
As always, look for the title of the movie in the description of the video. In the meantime, let us know in the comments. Do you think Go-Ring's message will change anything in the pit system? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that more awesome stories come out as often as possible.